The first thing Captain Elena Vasquez noticed when she opened her eyes was a silence, not the comfortable hum of a functioning starship, but the dead quiet that meant something had gone terribly wrong. Her cryopod hissed open, releasing her into the dim emergency lighting of Eternus's hibernation bay. "Computer, status report," she whispered, her voice cracking from centuries of disuse. "Captain Vasquez, welcome back. Current date, Galactic Standard 2847. Mission elapsed time, for 112 years, 7 months, 18 days. Elena's heart stopped. For 100 years. Their deep space reconnaissance mission was supposed to last 50 years at most. She pulled herself from the pod, her legs shaking as artificial gravity reasserted its hold on her body. Around her, thousands of other pods began their revival sequences. The Aeternus had been humanity's crown jewel, a supercarrier capable of housing 50,000 souls and equipped with the most advanced technology Earth could produce. Now it seemed like a tomb drifting through the cosmic dark. "Computer, why did we remain in hibernation beyond mission parameters? Unable to establish contact with Earth Command. Last transmission, received 411 years ago, contained emergency protocols. Earth appears to have been compromised." The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She stumbled to the nearest console, her fingers dancing across controls she knew by heart. The main display flickered to life, showing their current position in what had once been called the Outer Rim. But the star charts were wrong. Where human colonies should have been, she saw massive space stations bearing unfamiliar designs. "Captain." Commander Marcus Chen's voice echoed across the bay as he emerged from his own pod. "What's our situation?" Elena turned to face her first officer, seeing her own confusion and fear reflected in his eyes. "We're 4 centuries late, Marcus, and from what I can tell, we're not going home." Other senior staff were awakening now. Chief Engineer Sarah Kim, Medical Officer David Rodriguez, and Intelligence Officer Zara Okafor. Each face showed the same dawning horror as they processed their situation. "Computer, scan for human life signs and surrounding systems." Elena ordered. The response came after a long pause. "Detecting human biosignatures on multiple planets. Warning, all detected humans appear to be in containment facilities or labor installations." "Slaves," Zara whispered, her intelligence training allowing her to piece together the implications faster than the others. "Elena, I think humanity lost whatever war drove us into deep space." Elena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 50,000 sleeping souls pressing down on her shoulders. When she opened them again, her expression had hardened into something her crew recognized. The look she wore when impossible decisions needed to be made. "Wake the senior staff first. Department heads only. I want a full assessment of our capabilities before we wake anyone else." She paused, looking around at the vast hibernation bay. "And I want to know exactly who we're dealing with out there." Over the next several hours, as key personnel emerged from their long sleep, a terrifying picture began to emerge. The galaxy was now ruled by something called a hegemony, a coalition of alien species that had crushed human resistance centuries ago. Humanity existed now only as a slave species, scattered across mining worlds and labor camps throughout known space. But the Eternus represented something the galaxy had never seen. She was a ghost from humanity's golden age, equipped with weapons and defensive systems that predated current galactic technology by centuries. In the galaxy's rush to standardize their technology after humanity's defeat, they had actually moved backward in some areas, prioritizing control over innovation. "Captain," Sarah Kim reported from engineering, "our fusion drives are operating at 98% efficiency. Our weapon systems, they're unlike anything in current galactic databases. We're essentially carrying technology that's both ancient and revolutionary." Elena studied the tactical reports spreading across her command console. The Eternus wasn't just a warship. She was a mobile fortress, a manufacturing hub, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve. But she was also alone, facing an empire that controlled thousands of worlds. "Options," Elena said simply. "We could run," Marcus suggested. "Find an uninhabited system, build a colony, keep our people safe. While billions of humans suffer in slavery." Zara shook her head. That's not who we are. We could fight, Sarah added. Hit their installations, free human slaves. Show the galaxy that humanity isn't dead. Elena considered both options, then surprise them all. Or we could do something else entirely. Something they won't expect. She turned to face her officers, and for the first time since awakening, she smiled. We're going to remind this galaxy what happens when you underestimate human ingenuity. The Aeternus began to move, her massive bulk turning toward the galactic core, where the hegemony's power was strongest. In her wake, 50,000 humans slowly awakened to discover their world had changed forever. Admiral Kethvar of the Hegemony Third Fleet was enjoying his morning meditation when his aide burst into his chambers aboard the flagship Dominion's Edge. The Zeltharian's 4 arms gestured frantically, a breach of protocol that would normally result in immediate punishment. Admiral, urge a report from Sector 7. An unknown vessel has appeared on long-range sensors. Kethvar's compound eyes focused on the trembling aide. In his 70 years of service, nothing had ever warranted such dramatic interruption. Unknown how? Every ship in the galaxy is cataloged and tracked. Sir, the vessel appears to be human in origin. The meditation chamber fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's drives. Kethvar had been present at the final human stronghold's fall 3 centuries ago. He had watched the last of their pathetic fleet burn in the void, their crude weapons useless against hegemony's shields. Impossible. Show me. The holographic display materialized between them, showing a sensor reading that made Kethvar's circulatory system pulse with alarm. The ship was massive, nearly 5 kilometers long, bristling with unknown technology. But it was the energy readings that truly disturbed him. Power output that rivaled a small star, contained within a single vessel. How many ships are we detecting? Just one, Admiral. But, sir, it's moving toward Hegemony Prime. Kethvar's meditation was forgotten. Hegemony Prime was a capital world, home to the Council of Species and 40 billion souls. If this was some kind of human revenge plot, some impossible survivor carrying a planet-killer weapon, alert the entire Third Fleet. Intercept course, maximum speed. Meanwhile, aboard the Aeternus, Elena stood in the ship's war room surrounded by her senior staff and newly awakened department heads. The massive display showed their route through hegemony space, marked with known fleet positions and defensive installations. They've noticed us, Zara reported from her intelligence station. Multiple fleets converging on our position. Conservative estimate places enemy strength at over 3,000 vessels. Good, Elena replied, surprising everyone. The more attention we draw, the better. Captain, Marcus interjected, even with our technological advantages, we can't fight 3,000 ships. We're not going to fight them, Marcus. We're going to defeat them. Dr. Rodriguez, the ship's medical officer, looked confused. I don't understand the distinction. Elena turned to face the assembled officers, her expression carrying a weight that spoke of sleepless hours and impossible decisions. Fighting them means meeting their expectations. They expect violence. They expect destruction. They expect us to behave like the defeated humans they remember. But we're going to do something they've never seen before. She gestured to the display, zooming in on their destination. Hegemony Prime isn't just their capital. It's their symbol, the place where they signed humanity's surrender, where they divided up our territories like spoils of war. Every species in their coalition has representatives there. You want to attack the capital? Sarah asked, her engineering mind already calculating the tactical impossibilities. I want to visit it. Elena's smile was sharp as a blade. As invited guests, the room erupted in confused voices, but Elena raised her hand for silence. Computer, open a channel on all hegemony frequencies. Maximum broadcast power. Channel open, Captain. Elena straightened her uniform. Every inch the military commander despite centuries of sleep. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Aeternus. To all hegemony forces and leadership, we are a diplomatic mission from the Human Restoration Government, seeking audience with the Council of Species to discuss terms of humanity's reintegration into galactic society. She paused, letting the words sink in across 1,000 listening posts. We request safe passage to Hegemony Prime for formal negotiations. We carry documents of surrender and proposals for humanity's continued service to the Hegemony's greater good. The transmission ended, leaving the war room in stunned silence. "Captain," Marcus whispered, "there is no human restoration government." "Not yet," Elena replied. "But they don't know that. What they know is that humans are supposed to be beaten, scattered, leaderless. The idea that we might have organized, that we might be offering voluntary surrender instead of requiring conquest. It's going to terrify them." Zara's intelligence training allowed her to see the strategy first. They can't attack a diplomatic mission without revealing their true nature to every species in their coalition. Many of their member races joined voluntarily, believing the hegemony represented order and prosperity. Exactly. If they fire on diplomats, they prove they're conquerors, not liberators. But if they don't... Elena gestured to the tactical display, showing converging fleets. Look at their response. 3,000 ships to escort one diplomatic vessel? That's not confidence, that's fear. Admiral Ketvar stared at the human transmission replay for the 7th time, his compound eyes analyzing every detail of the human female's expression. In his experience, defeated species didn't make demands. They certainly didn't approach the Galactic capital with single vessels, claiming diplomatic immunity. Analysis he demanded of his staff. "The vessel's trajectory hasn't changed," his tactical officer reported. "They're maintaining steady course for Hegemony Prime. No evasive maneuvers, no aggressive posturing. And their weapons? Unknown configurations, but, Admiral, they're not powered. All weapon systems appear to be in standby mode." Ketvar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Uncertainty. Every tactical manual, every strategic protocol assumed that survivors sought revenge through violence. But these humans were doing something unprecedented. They were surrendering forward, turning their defeat into a victory condition he couldn't understand. "Open a channel to Hegemony Command," he ordered. "Tell them we have a situation that requires council guidance." The Aeternus continued its stately progress toward the Galactic capital, surrounded by an ever-growing fleet that dared not fire on her, while her crew prepared for the most important performance in human history. The council chamber of Hegemony Prime had witnessed the surrender of a dozen species over the centuries, but never had hosted such an unusual gathering. Representatives from all major Hegemony member races filled the tiered seating. Their various forms of eyes, sensors, and perception organs focused on the central platform where Captain Elena Vasquez stood alone. She had come aboard shuttle with only a small diplomatic party, leaving the Aeternus in orbit under the watchful guard of Admiral Ketvar's fleet. Her uniform was immaculate, her bearing proud, and her expression carried the serene confidence of someone who held all the cards in a game no one else understood. Chancellor Vorthake, the Hegemony's supreme leader, leaned forward on his crystalline throne. The Nethes was ancient even by his species standards, having overseen humanity's original defeat. "Captain Vasquez, you claim to represent a human restoration government. Our records indicate no such organization exists. Your records, with respect, Chancellor, are 4 centuries out of date." Elena's voice carried clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "Humanity has had considerable time to reassess our position in galactic affairs." Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Elena had studied the political dynamics during her approach. The hegemony wasn't a unified empire. It appeared to be. It was a coalition held together by shared profit and mutual fear, with dozens of member species who had their own agendas and grievances. "You speak of surrender," Chancellor Vorthake continued, "yet you arrive in a vessel that has our entire Third Fleet concerned. Your ship's technology readings are anomalous." Elena smiled. "The Aeternus is indeed advanced, Chancellor. She represents the pinnacle of pre-war human engineering. But I didn't come here to threaten anyone. I came to offer something far more valuable than military resistance." She activated a holographic projector, filling the chamber center with detailed star charts. "Humanity has been scattered across your territories for centuries, working in your mines, your factories, your most dangerous industrial operations. We've learned your systems, your technologies, your weaknesses." The word Weaknesses sent a chill through the chamber, but Elena continued smoothly. More importantly, we've learned how to make them stronger. Human ingenuity, properly directed, could revolutionize hegemony production efficiency by orders of magnitude. Counselor Zax of the Viridian Mining Consortium shifted forward, her insectoid features betraying interest. What exactly are you proposing, human? Voluntary integration, rather than forced servitude. Humanity officially joins hegemony as a full member species, contributing our technological innovations and workforce in exchange for equal representation and the gradual elevation of human colonies to full planetary status. The chamber erupted in heated discussion. Elena waited calmly as various delegates argued in a dozen different languages. She could read the political currents as clearly as stellar navigation charts. Some species saw opportunity, others perceived threat, and a few recognized the dangerous precedent of elevating a former slave race. Chancellor Vortheke raised his hand for silence. And if we refuse this generous offer? Elena's expression didn't change, but her next words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then humanity continues as we have for 4 centuries. Scattered, enslaved, but now with full knowledge of every hegemony system, every industrial process, every military installation we've been forced to build and maintain. The implication hung in the air like a drawn blade. Counselor Yethare of the Altarian Defense Corps spoke to fear aloud. You're threatening sabotage. I'm acknowledging reality, Elena replied. 40 billion humans across 3,000 worlds, all with intimate knowledge of your infrastructure. The question isn't whether resistance would emerge. It's whether you want that resistance organized and directed or chaotic and destructive. Admiral Kefar, monitoring the proceedings from orbit, felt his tactical instincts screaming warnings. The human captain was weaponizing the hegemony's own success. Centuries of using human labor had placed potential saboteurs in every critical system across the galaxy. But Elena wasn't finished. However, there's a third option that benefits everyone. She gestured, and the holographic display shifted to show technological schematics. The Aeternum carries a complete archives of pre-war human science. Medical advances that could extend lifespans for all hegemony species, agricultural techniques that could triple food production, manufacturing processes that could reduce resource consumption by 70%. Counselor Zax's compound eyes widened. You're offering technology transfer? I'm offering partnership. Humanity brings innovation. You provide resources and infrastructure. Together, we build something greater than either could achieve alone. Chancellor Vortheke studied the holographic displays, his ancient mind calculating possibilities and risks. And your warship? The Aeternum will become the flagship of a new hegemony exploration fleet. Human crews trained in both our technology and yours, pushing the boundaries of known space, finding new worlds and resources for all member species to share. It was audacious, Elena knew. She was essentially proposing to transform the hegemony from a conquered empire into a true galactic confederation, with humanity as equal partners rather than subjects. But audacity was humanity's greatest strength. The willingness to attempt the impossible when conventional approaches failed. Why should we trust you? Counselor Yethare demanded. Your species has every reason to seek revenge. Elena turned to face the Altarian directly. Because revenge is a luxury we can't afford, and you know it. The galaxy is vast, Counselor. Beyond your borders lie mysteries and threats that dwarf our petty conflicts. The void hunters in the galactic rim. The quantum storm spreading from the core. Entire star systems going dark with no explanation. She was gambling now, using intelligence Aeternus had gathered during their approach. References to dangers that the hegemony preferred not to discuss publicly. Humanity offers you something no conquered species ever could. Willing cooperation from the one race that has proven capable of innovation under impossible conditions. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed their words. Elena could feel the moment balanced on a knife's edge. In orbit above, 50,000 humans waited to learn whether they would become free citizens or the galaxy's most wanted fugitives. Chancellor Vortheke rose from his throne, his crystalline form catching the chamber's light. The council will deliberate. You will remain as our guests until we reach a decision. Elena bowed respectfully. Of course, Chancellor. But I should mention, the Aeternum is equipped with quantum communication arrays. My government expects regular reports on these negotiations. It was a lie, but a necessary one. The implication that humanity had developed faster-than-light communication, that other human forces existed beyond hegemony space, would factor heavily into their decision-making process. As Elena was escorted to diplomatic quarters, she knew the real battle was just beginning. Everything depended on the hegemony believing that cooperation was more profitable than conquest, and that humanity was too dangerous to remain enslaved, but too valuable to destroy. In the 3 days since Elena's proposal, Hegemony Prime had become a cauldron of political intrigue. Secret meetings filled the capital's corridors as species representatives weighed opportunities against risks, while Admiral Kethvar's fleet maintained their watchful orbit around the Aeternum, a ship that continued to defy every attempt at detailed scanning. Elena spent her confinement in the diplomatic quarters, studying intelligence reports her security detail had smuggled from their brief shore leave. The picture they painted was both encouraging and terrifying. Humanity's centuries of forced labor had indeed placed them throughout hegemony infrastructure, but their treatment had been even worse than she'd imagined. Entire generations had grown up knowing only slavery, their spirits broken by systematic oppression. "Captain," Commander Chen's voice came through her encrypted communicator. "We're receiving coded transmissions from human populations across 17 systems. Word of our arrival is spreading faster than hegemony communication networks." Elena understood the implications immediately. Hope was a dangerous thing to give people who had learned to live without it. If these negotiations failed, the resulting uprising would be chaotic, bloody, and ultimately futile, exactly the kind of violent resistance the hegemony expected and knew how to crush. A soft chime indicated an incoming visitor. Elena opened the door to find Counselor Zax, the Viridian Mining Consortium representative, standing alone in the corridor. "Counselor, this is unexpected. May I enter? What I have to discuss requires privacy." Elena stepped aside, noting the absence of the usual security escorts. Zax moved with the precise efficiency of her insectoid species, but Elena detected something unusual in her posture. Uncertainty, perhaps even fear. "Captain Vasquez, I need to understand something. Your proposal claims humanity can revolutionize our industrial processes, but my consortium has employed human labor for 3 centuries. Their innovations have been minimal." Elena poured water from a crystal pitcher, one of the small luxuries provided to diplomatic guests. "Tell me, Counselor, what incentive did you give those humans to innovate? What did they gain from improving your efficiency?" "They gained continued survival." "Exactly." Elena sat across from the alien delegate. Fear is a powerful motivator for basic tasks, but innovation requires hope, curiosity, the belief that improvement is possible. You spent centuries systematically destroying those qualities in human workers. Zax's compound eyes shifted in what Elena recognized as a Viridian equivalent of uncomfortable realization. "You're suggesting their lack of innovation was intentional?" "I'm suggesting it was inevitable. But the humans aboard the Aeternum never experienced slavery. We carry the spark of what humanity was at its peak, combined with knowledge of what we've observed during our centuries of exile." Elena activated her portable holographic projector, showing detailed engineering schematics. "This is a mining extraction system based on human gravitational manipulation theory, adapted for Viridian physiology and enhanced with techniques we developed studying your current operations from the outside." The schematics were elegant, efficient, and undeniably revolutionary. Zax studied them with growing excitement. This could increase extraction rates by 400% while reducing equipment failure by half. And that's just one example. Every system we've observed could be improved, but only if humanity is working with you rather than for you. Zax was quiet for several minutes, her alien mind processing possibilities that extended far beyond mining efficiency. The other species won't accept this easily. Many profit from the current arrangement. Some will. Elena agreed. Others will see opportunity. The key is demonstrating that cooperation creates more wealth than exploitation. And if the Chancellor refuses your proposal? Elena's expression hardened. Then 50,000 highly trained humans disappear into deep space, carrying complete knowledge of hegemony military capabilities industrial infrastructure, and political weaknesses. We become a problem that grows larger with every passing year. That sounds like a threat. It's a prediction. Counselor, I've studied your history. The hegemony succeeded because it offered member species something better than they had before. But you've been coasting on past victories for centuries. Your technology has stagnated, your expansion has slowed, and new threats are emerging that require new solutions. Elena stood, moving to the window that overlooked Hegemony Prime's gleaming cityscape. The Void Hunters aren't going to wait for you to resolve internal politics. The quantum storms aren't going to pause while you debate territorial boundaries. You need innovation, adaptation, evolution, exactly what humanity has been forced to master through 4 centuries of survival. Before Zax could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the diplomatic complex. Elena's communicator crackled to life with Marcus Chen's urgent voice. "Captain, we have a situation. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures approaching the system. Configuration unknown, but they're not using any known hegemony propulsion technology." Elena and Zax rushed to the window as defense platforms throughout the system began powering up. In the distance, impossible geometric shapes were emerging from hyperspace, vessels that seemed to fold space around themselves, their surfaces absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "Void Hunters," Zax whispered, her compound eyes wide with terror. Elena felt her blood run cold. The Void Hunters were legend even in her time. Creatures from the space between galaxies that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty darkness in their wake. Their arrival now, during the most delicate negotiations in human history, couldn't be coincidence. "Counselor, I need to get back to my ship." "That's impossible. The security protocols are about to become irrelevant." Elena was already moving toward the door. "Those aren't raiders or scouts. That's an invasion fleet, and every tactical doctrine in your databases is 4 centuries out of date." As if summoned by her words, Chancellor Vorthake's voice echoed through the complex's communication system. "All diplomatic personnel to emergency stations. The system is under attack by unknown hostile forces. Military commanders report to crisis coordination immediately." Elena grabbed Zax's arm as they hurried through corridors filled with panicking aliens. "Counselor, humanity has something no other species in this galaxy possesses. Experience fighting enemies that don't follow conventional rules. The Aeternus may be your only chance of survival. You're asking me to trust you with our lives based on promises and theoretical technology." Elena stopped abruptly, forcing Zax to meet her gaze. "I'm asking you to trust us with our lives. Every human in this galaxy will die if the Void Hunters succeed. We have more reason to fight than anyone." Through the complex's windows, they could see the first exchange of fire as hegemony defense platforms engaged the approaching fleet. The aliens' weapons simply absorbed the energy directed at them, growing brighter as they fed on the attack. "Your weapons are useless against them," Elena said quietly. "But ours were designed to fight things that shouldn't exist." The moment of choice had arrived far sooner than anyone expected. But Elena recognized opportunity even in crisis. Sometimes the best way to prove your value wasn't through negotiations, but through action when everything else failed. The Aeternus moved through the chaos of battle, like a predator among prey, while hegemony ships fired uselessly at Void Hunter vessels that absorbed their energy weapons. The human Supercarrier deployed technologies that had never been seen in this galaxy. Gravitational torpedoes armed and ready. Sarah Kim reported from engineering. Temporal displacement fields at full power. Elena stood on the bridge, watching tactical displays that showed the impossible. Void Hunter ships phasing in and out of normal space, their hulls somehow existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But humanity had encountered the impossible before, during the dark years that drove them into deep space. "Target the lead vessel. Sarah, I want a 40-second temporal displacement around their primary mass." "Captain," Marcus warned, "we don't know how their technology will interact with ours." "We're about to find out." The Aeternus fired, but instead of conventional weapons, she unleashed forces that bent space-time itself. The gravitational torpedo struck the Void Hunter flagship just as temporal fields activated around it. creating a bubble of accelerated time that aged the alien vessel centuries in seconds. The result was spectacular and terrifying. The Void Hunter ship simply crumbled, its exotic matter hull unable to maintain cohesion across multiple temporal states. Secondary explosions rippled through nearby vessels as the flagship's destruction created cascade failures in their dimensional anchoring systems. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Kethvar from his command ship. "How did they—" His question was answered as Elena opened communications to all hegemony forces. "This is Captain Vasquez to all ships. Void Hunters exist partially outside normal spacetime. Energy weapons feed their systems, but temporal and gravitational attacks destabilize their dimensional matrices. Coordinate your attacks with our targeting solutions." What followed was the most unusual battle in galactic history. Human technology that seemed like magic-guided hegemony forces in tactics that defied conventional physics. The Aeternus became the center of a storm of coordinated destruction, her quantum computers calculating targeting solutions that turned the hegemony's own weapons into effective tools against an enemy they couldn't have fought alone. But the Void Hunters were learning, adapting their dimensional phasing to counter human tactics. Elena watched grimly as her gravitational torpedoes began missing targets that shifted into parallel dimensions at the moment of impact. They're evolving their defenses faster than we can adjust our attacks. Zara reported from intelligence. Whatever controls their fleet has processing power that rivals our quantum cores. Elena made a decision that would have seemed insane to any conventional military commander. "All ships, this is Aeternus. Concentrate your fire on my position." "Captain?" Marcus turned to stare at her in shock. "Sarah, prepare for emergency dimensional shift. I want us existing in the same phase space as the Void Hunter command vessel." "Elena, that's never been tested. We could be torn apart on a molecular level, or we could end this war in the next 60 seconds. Elena's voice carried absolute certainty. "Marcus, signal the hegemony fleet. Tell them to fire everything they have at the coordinates I'm transmitting. All weapons, maximum power." The Aeternus began to change, her hull flickering as exotic matter from her experimental drives started shifting the massive vessel between dimensions. Elena felt the ship shudder as reality itself bent around them, the bridge instruments showing readings that shouldn't have been possible. "Dimensional phase shift complete," Sarah announced, her voice tight with concentration. "We're now existing in the same space-time matrix as the Void Hunter command ship." Through the main display, Elena could see the alien vessel in its true form, a crystalline structure that seemed to extend to dimensions she couldn't name, pulsing with energy drawn from consumed star systems. But more importantly, she could see its weakness. There, she pointed to a nexus where multiple dimensional streams converged. Their power distribution center. One shot, concentrated at that point, and their entire fleet loses cohesion. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy buildup from hegemony forces. They're actually doing it. Every ship in the system is targeting our position." Elena smiled grimly. "Sometimes the best way to save everyone is to put yourself directly in harm's way. Fire." The Aeternus unleashed every weapon in her arsenal at point-blank range into the Void Hunter command nexus, just as 3,000 hegemony ships opened fire on the same coordinates. The resulting explosion tore holes in space-time itself, but instead of destroying both vessels, the combined energy overloaded the Void Hunter's dimensional anchoring systems. Across the solar system, every Void Hunter vessel suddenly became solid, visible, vulnerable. Deprived of their dimensional phasing abilities, they were simply advanced ships facing overwhelming numerical superiority. The battle was over in minutes. As the Aeternus shifted back to normal space, her hull scarred but intact, Elena found herself facing communications requests from every ship in the hegemony fleet. But the most important call came from Chancellor Vorteke himself. "Captain Vasquez, the ancient Nethes appeared on her main screen. It appears we have much to discuss." 3 hours later, Elena stood once again in the council chamber, but the atmosphere had completely changed. Where before there had been suspicion and calculation, now there was something approaching awe. The Void Hunters had been a threat to galactic civilization for millennia, Chancellor Vorteke announced to the assembled delegates. No species has ever successfully repelled their attacks. Until today. Elena remained silent, letting the implications settle in the minds of beings who had just witnessed the impossible. Captain Vasquez, humanity's proposal for full membership in hegemony is accepted. Furthermore, the Council authorizes the immediate formation of a joint human hegemony research division to study the technologies demonstrated during this battle. And the human populations currently in bondage, Elena asked quietly, will be granted full citizenship rights and relocated to colony worlds of their choosing, with full reparations for past treatment. Elena nodded, but her expression remained serious. Chancellor, this victory was just the beginning. The Void Hunters will return with new adaptations, new strategies. And they're not the only threat lurking in the dark between galaxies. She gestured to the holographic display, showing vast empty regions beyond known space. Humanity brings more than technology to this partnership. We bring experience with survival against impossible odds, and the willingness to face threats that others would rather ignore. What are you proposing? A new kind of exploration fleet. Human crews working with hegemony resources, pushing into the unknown regions, finding these threats before they find us. Elena's smile carried the weight of centuries. After all, the best defense has always been making sure your enemies never get the chance to surprise you. As the Council voted unanimously to accept the proposal, Elena thought of the 50,000 humans still sleeping aboard her ship, waiting to learn their fate. They had gone to sleep as Earth's last hope and awakened as the galaxy's newest guardians. Sometimes the greatest victories were won not through conquest, but by proving that cooperation could achieve what force never could. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage not as conquerors seeking revenge, but as partners offering something far more valuable than weapons, the chance to face an uncertain future together. The Aeternus had emerged from a void to crush an empire without firing a shot, but her true mission was just beginning.